We've been together for 15 years, got married 11 years ago, and have two kids who are 7 and 5 years old. I never thought that she would cheat on me, so it was a complete surprise. This might take a while, so get comfortable. Around a year ago, we hit it off with this other couple who had kids around the same age as ours. They lived close by, and we all got along like a house on fire. We started spending more time together, taking turns babysitting each other's kids and going out as a group. As time went on, I noticed that my wife and the other husband were becoming really close. Since they were the ones looking after the children most of the time, they had plenty of opportunities to bond. Unfortunately, I wasn't around much when this was happening, as I was working long hours while the other two were busy doing kid stuff together. To be honest, I wasn't sweating it too much. I have complete faith in my wife, and I've never had any reason to question her loyalty. She's always had plenty of male friends, and it's never bothered me before. But as the spring rolled around, things got a little rocky between us. My wife began to realize she was feeling down in the dumps, so she started seeing a therapist. She also hit the gym hard and began shedding some pounds. After a while, she suggested we try out couples counseling together. At first, I was a bit taken aback because I thought everything was hunky-dory between us. I was like, what's the problem? I remember when my wife suggested couples counseling, I didn't think too much of it and just shrugged it off. After all, she didn't seem too bothered about it when I told her I thought we were okay. So the whole thing was left hanging in the air, and we never brought it up again. As far as our bed life went, things were pretty good between us. It wasn't ever a big issue, but maybe not as frequent as we both would have liked. We rarely went more than a week without getting intimate, and never more than a month. However, I knew deep down that my wife had a stronger desire for closeness than I did. During this period, I stumbled upon a couple of toys my wife had bought without letting me in on the secret. She had clearly been hiding them, but one night they accidentally went off while we were sleeping. We both woke up and talked about it the next day. I remember asking her, "Why didn't you just tell me about it?" As it turned out, I was struggling with some personal issues too, particularly with work. We had moved to her hometown about 5 years ago, where she had some friends, but none of them were really close anymore. On the other hand, I had no friends at all. I have a pretty decent job as a doctor, but we also spent a lot of money, which caused me a lot of stress and anxiety. I guess that's on me, though. When my wife started going to counseling and working out, we began spending more time with the other couple. It felt good to finally have friends, and I was excited about it. We even started getting more intimate with each other, and things were going well as June rolled around. In July, we all went on a family vacation together. It was during this trip that my wife told me something that really bothered her. Apparently, the other wife had discovered some texts between my wife and her husband on his phone. While my wife assured me that there was nothing inappropriate going on, the sheer volume of messages seemed to upset the other wife greatly. My wife told me that the texts between her and the other husband were all friendly, and that there was one time he jokingly said, "I love you." She even offered to show me the texts, but I didn't feel the need to see them. I trusted her and figured it was no big deal that she had male friends. But when we returned home from the family vacation, I started feeling anxious and insecure for no apparent reason. I noticed that the pouch where she kept her toys was moving around more frequently. Meanwhile, the other husband had a week off work for the summer holidays, so he and my wife were spending a lot of time together with the kids while I was working all the time to make up for the time off we took for the trip. As my anxiety increased, the texts between my wife and the other husband kept bothering me. At first, she said I could see them, but then it turned into her saying it would be an invasion of her privacy. Then a week before my birthday, she bought a gift for him that required iron-on patches and arrived while I was home. She gave it to him the next day while I was at work, and I only saw it the day after. It made me wonder why she didn't just tell me about it in the first place. I was feeling like I was losing my mind. Why was I so paranoid? Why can't I just believe in her? Why am I constantly checking the Find My Friends app and the Nest cameras in the house now? It's like I felt like I was already replaced before with her toys, and now I felt like I was being replaced as her partner too, so I opened up and told her how I felt. I was a complete mess. She tried to reassure me that they were just friends, that nothing was going on, and that it's no different from her being friends with other guy friends. Before I left on a trip with my male friends in July, I talked to a female coworker about the text messages my wife had been exchanging with her male friend. I found out that there were many I love you messages, good morning and good night messages, and even pet names. This news hit me hard. Just a week before my wife had accidentally said I love you with the pet name while she was asleep and then went back to sleep. I was really confused and asked my wife about the pet name she used in her sleep. She told me that I was that pet name, but I later found out that I wasn't. I confronted my wife about this, and she revealed that she had been feeling really depressed and upset with how I had been treating her over the last few years. She even considered leaving me, but her friend talked her out of it. I also talked to her friend and expressed my concern about the I love yous and pet names. They apologized and agreed to stop using those terms. He even said that he would back off a bit. After a few weeks, we all planned to hang out together. I arrived first, and when my wife and her friend arrived, I could sense that my wife was eager to hug him. It made me feel uneasy and upset, and I knew I was being irrational. I tried to distance myself from the situation to calm down, but my wife noticed and asked what was going on. We ended up arguing about it even though I knew I was at fault. The day after our fight, the other couple talked and decided that they needed to establish a boundary where the male and female in our families cannot communicate privately anymore. I wasn't thrilled about this because I was starting to become good friends with the female, but I understood and agreed to it. My wife, on the other hand, thought it was complete crap, but said she would still respect their wishes. After a few more weeks, we went on a family trip with just the two of us. I noticed that she was texting him privately along with a bunch of other people the entire trip. Every time she went to the bathroom or I did, she was glued to her phone. I finally confronted her and I was extremely angry. I said, well, there goes those boundaries. It was not a good day to have that fight, but it happened and I meant every word. I had been assured that they were no longer communicating privately, so I was really upset. 3 weeks later, my wife calls me and tells me something important. The other wife discovered that my wife and the other guy have been talking for hours every day despite agreeing not to communicate privately anymore. They talked for 40 minutes at 4 a.m., 1.5 hours at night, and 40 minutes during lunch every day. They always talked when I was at work. If I left for overnight at 9 p.m., they had a 1.5-hour call. If I was home at night, they didn't talk then, but they had a call at 4 a.m. This was happening every day, and I felt devastated and betrayed. My wife had lied to me directly. Finally, we decided to go to couples therapy. During our sessions, my wife assured me and the therapist that she had cut all communication with the other man and that she was working hard to regain my trust so that our families could be friends again and our kids could hang out together. After about a month, I checked our home security camera footage and saw my wife taking a selfie in a suggestive pose during her workout. Later that night, I managed to access her photo stream on her computer and discovered that they had been sending each other nearly explicit messages and photos, including lingerie pictures and seductive poses dating back to August. I was completely shocked and heartbroken. The internet is flooded with motivational quotes about finding your second love, not being able to be with your true love because of external factors, and finding someone who accepts you for who you are. It's really painful for me to see all this. I feel completely shattered and hurt. My wife had promised the therapist that they had no communication anymore, so this betrayal has hit me hard. I talked to the other woman and my wife, and I discussed it. They had been using a secret messaging app since before our family trip and had been exchanging texts. She swore that there was nothing physical going on. I asked her how I can trust her again, and she promised that she won't hurt me or lie to me anymore. In the text, it was revealed that my wife had expressed to the other guy that she wanted to run away with him in 5 or 20 years. Although she claimed it was just a fantasy, I was devastated. A few days later, he confessed to his wife that they had been kissing since August and had closeness multiple times, which explained why she would leave to run errands during certain nights. These nights were when the other guy's wife was at work and I was either at home or we had hired a sitter. I had a gut feeling when my wife went out one night because she turned off the Find Your Friends feature on her phone and hired a sitter before I got home from work. The next day, I asked her where she went, and she showed me a picture she took with her friend saying she went to her house. However, that was definitely the first night she went to the other man's house to spend the night with him. She made sure to take a picture as proof that she was somewhere else. My wife kept hiding the truth from me. We went to couples therapy, and she tried to explain away the pictures, claiming that nothing physical happened, but I couldn't keep it bottled up inside anymore, and I revealed everything I knew. We both broke down in tears, and I felt absolutely crushed. My wife was ashamed of what she had done. Despite this, the very next day she went to his workplace to try and speak with him, claiming that she needed closure and wanted to apologize. He drove away quickly and she followed him for a while, but then turned back and called me. But I can't help but wonder what her true intentions were. How can I be certain that she wasn't hoping to rekindle things with him, and that he wasn't simply ignoring her because of his wife's ultimatum? Despite her apologies and deep regret, it's hard for me to let go of what happened. We have our next couples therapy appointment scheduled for tomorrow, but I'm not sure if it'll make much of a difference at this point. During our discussion, we both acknowledged that divorce is probably the best course of action. Even though I appreciate her remorse, I don't think I'll ever be able to fully forgive her or regain the trust that was lost. It's a tough situation, but I know I need to prioritize my own mental health and happiness. I just can't do it anymore. All the information I found out was either discovered by someone else or myself. She never revealed anything to me on her own. I guess I'm just trying to understand what's going on with her. She's still keeping things from me. She changed all her passwords for her devices and computer. There's no transparency at all. During our therapy session, the therapist suggested that my wife should share her passwords with me for the sake of transparency. However, she refused, claiming that it was her privacy. The therapist was shocked and emphasized that transparency is crucial for rebuilding trust. Yet my wife still refuses to be completely transparent. I don't want to constantly ask for everything, and honestly, I'm not sure I even want to know anymore. I'm wondering how I should handle tomorrow and beyond. The legal aspects can be sorted out since I've talked to a lawyer, but it's tough to decide on the timing. Should I tell her tomorrow that I want us to start living in separate rooms while still in the same house? We do have a guest bedroom available. Should I also start separating our financial accounts? Right now, everything is shared, but since I make most of the money, splitting everything equally could lead to more conflict? Or should I wait until our next couples therapy session in January after the holiday season is over? After a while, we survived the holiday season. We decided to move to different bedrooms and officially separate. We also agreed that we were free to see other people if we wanted to. There was a small argument during Christmas, but we managed to keep things cordial overall. As we spent more time together, I became more convinced that separating was the right choice. I know I can eventually heal, but I still can't trust her, and the little things about her continued to bother me. The new year was a difficult time for me. It marked our 15th year together, and even though I celebrated with some amazing friends, it was tough being around so many couples. Maybe I should have stayed in town and hung out with my single friends instead, but I really wanted to catch up with my old besties who knew my wife just as long as I have. Last weekend, we took one last family trip to the museum, which we had promised our son for his birthday, but never got around to doing. It was a good time for the kids, but spending more time with my wife made me more and more annoyed with her, especially with the little things. Plus, she was always on her phone towards the end of each day. Despite all of that, I managed to keep it together. I had the option to surprise her and file for divorce and separate our finances, but I didn't. Instead, I consulted with my lawyer frequently and decided to keep our finances joint. She didn't move any money around, so I allowed her to see a lawyer, and after consulting with him, she gave me the option to file or she could file. I informed her that I wanted to file as soon as possible, and she agreed. So yesterday, I finally filed for divorce, and it felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. She's on the verge of getting a job and has also found a new house. Once the house deal is closed, she'll start moving out. We've agreed that we can still coexist in the house until she moves out. It seems like things will go smoothly, which is what we both want. We've already worked out the custody arrangements, and since my schedule allows it, I can have the kids with me for a lot more time during school days than most people. For example, I can pick them up at 2 p.m. and have them all day as opposed to just picking them up at 5:30 p.m. if I had a regular 9-5 job. We've also agreed on how to handle holidays, but we still need to finalize the details in writing. It might seem a little unconventional and perhaps a bit daring, but I believe it was the right decision to maintain a friendly relationship. After all, I'll have to deal with her no matter what happens. I don't know if we'll ever be close pals, but we need to be able to get along in the same room and at least show a friendly smile. After agreeing to separate and see other people, I started seeing someone else. It was refreshing to feel desired and wanted, and it gave me some insight into what my marriage was missing. We had fun, and I made it clear from the beginning that I wasn't looking for anything serious. However, things got complicated when she started developing feelings and even told me she loved me after just 12 days. I knew I wasn't ready for all that, so I had to let her down gently. So I have a hunch that my soon-to-be ex-wife is seeing another man, but honestly, it doesn't really bother me anymore now that we're separated. The thing is, this guy is married too. They met through some volunteer work where she's on the board and he's the new president. I can see on the phone bill that they've been sending 500, 600 texts a day since a couple of days after Christmas. I can't read the actual messages, but the sheer number of texts seems suspicious to me. During our family trip, my STBXW sent and received 280 messages from 6 to 8:30 p.m. while we were having dinner and getting the kids to bed. It seems like a lot of texting for that time frame. She went over to his house last night to work with him and left around 11, which isn't too long. However, I have some suspicions based on the timing and frequency of her texts that she has been going to his house other times. I also noticed a fair number of late-night texts between 11 and 11:30 p.m. as well as texts at midnight on New Year's Eve and later at 1 a.m. I know I should stop looking for trouble, but it's hard not to think. Can't we just avoid destroying two families? I'm not sure if I should bring this up during our couples counseling today, which will mostly focus on how we'll handle things with the kids. This might be my last session, and I'm unsure whether to mention it now or wait until after the divorce is finalized. I also have a hunch that she knows about the woman I've been seeing, in which case I should probably just leave it alone as she hasn't said anything. My lawyer is aware of both issues but hasn't provided any advice on what to do. The final. All right, it's finally over. My ex has officially moved out, and tonight is the first night in a long time that we won't be sleeping under the same roof. On top of that, she's got the kids with her tonight. But you know what? I'm actually feeling pretty good about it all. I've got some awesome friends to hang out with tonight, and there are more friends coming over tomorrow and the day after that, so things are looking up.